Hello, beautiful souls. Jade Renee Banks here. Just wait for a few moments for this to go live. Just sharing this on my personal page. So, how are we all doing today on this day? Hey, Teresa. Each day is different at the moment, isn't it? So today I felt really called to get on here and talk about navigating change in our lives and the grief cycle. So yeah, we're all going through a lot of change right now on many levels, and that change would look different for everyone. So yeah, the message that I got this morning was to talk about the grief cycle and to talk about the changes that we're going through and the mass awakening that we're going through as a collective. So we're kind of being forced into change. There's no doubt about it. Whether we want to change or not, whether we're conscious of it or not, it's happening. And the way that we move through change as human beings is we move through what's called the grief cycle. And I've been talking about this a lot with coaching clients lately, with friends lately. It came up a lot in the card reading session I did yesterday on Facebook Live. There was lots of good messages in there because it's what we're all moving through at the moment. We're all moving through a lot of change that has been put upon us and not necessarily being through our conscious choice. And that has an effect on us. That has an effect on us physically, that has an effect on us emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So when we go through any type of change in our lives, we move through a grief cycle. So often we associate grief when we lose a loved one to death or even a relationship breakdown. But the grief cycle, we actually move through a grief cycle every time we go through any sort of change, whether that's moving house, changing relationships, changing jobs. It could be a death of somebody in our lives. Any sort of change at all. So there's different. What else I wanted to say around this mass awakening is everything is changing and everything's being stripped away from us. Everything is being pared right back, stripped right back. Our identities, our roles, our jobs, our businesses, all those distractions, all the busyness that we fill up our lives with is really being stripped away right now. We're in this real void space at the moment, which can be really unsettling for most people to have so much space, so much time on our hands, so much just that space, being in that space without the big to-do list or our jobs to go to or whatever it looks like for you. It's different for everyone. We're all of a sudden being put into this void space. A lot of us are self-isolating or self-retreating. So we're at home a lot more. We're spending perhaps more time with the people that we live with our families, with our loved ones in different ways to what we probably normally interact with them in those roles that we're usually playing in our normal lives, in our normal routines, in our normal structures, which can be quite supportive. Those routines, those structures, and those containers. It's just that it's all shifting at the moment. It's all being rearranged. It's all kind of being, disassembled and broken down to be rebuilt. So this is also a really beautiful opportunity to take a really good look at your life, what's important for you, how you want to create it moving forward, how you want to rebuild, what sort of structures, routines do you want to build into your life moving forward into the future. So yeah, that in itself can be really confronting when all of those things are stripped away from us and we don't have our usual reference points to lean on. We're kind of just left with ourselves and we don't really have any other option but to turn within. We're being awakened. Our third eye is open. We're starting to see the truth and the reality of things. And if we haven't been looking at that, or if we've been blind to that, that can be really confronting. And that's okay. It's okay if you're struggling right now with that. Many people are, and that's why I wanted to get on today and just bring a little bit of awareness to it and talk a little bit about those, the stages of the grief cycle. And I've noticed myself moving through them over the past few weeks with everything going on. So the main stages of the grief cycle, the first stage is shock or denial. The second stage is anger. The third stage is sadness, and then the fourth stage is gratitude or acceptance. So this can look a little bit different for everyone. So in that initial stage of shock or denial, that's where you might be still in denial of what's happening. You might not want to look at it. You might be in that state of fear or fight or flight or stress or anxiety. Or you might even be feeling a little bit out of your body, feeling quite numb and disconnected from things and not feeling much at all. Just, when you think of someone who's gone into a physical state of shock, they're not quite there in their body. So they're not actually connected to and feeling what's going on around them. So that's the first stage, and I did notice myself in this stage a few weeks ago. I was in denial about it. I was like, oh, it's not as bad as people are saying. It's just a type of flu and blah, 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 whatever. That was just, the stage that I was going through at that time. And then the next stage that we move into, when the reality starts to hit home, we start to, face the reality of things, or we're forced to face the reality of things, we can get angry about it. We can have a rage come up. We can start feeling really reactive towards others, or we can start to go into blame and blame others. We start to find that our tolerance levels are really low. We might be getting a bit snappy, a bit short. We might be losing our temper and not have much control over that. So that's that second stage. Or we might even go into blaming ourselves for being even in that first stage of denial and feeling a guilt around that, for not taking the situation seriously or being in denial of what was actually happening. And just a little side note with the grief cycle, I'm giving you the stages in order, but it's not a linear system, I guess. We can move through different stages at different times and go back and forth between different ones. We can be feeling some of them, we might feel all stages in the space of a day. So it's not really like you move through this stage and then this stage and then that stage. I mean, you can do, but then we can keep shifting through them and moving backwards and forwards as we're moving through a life change. And the grief cycle is kind of reflective of our life cycles. Life is always changing. Things are always changing. We're always going through new life, a death, and then a rebirth. And it's how well we can move through these changes and be in acceptance of all stages of change throughout our lives will help us and support us to navigate change with less fear, with less resistance, and to be able to ride out those different stages once we have a conscious awareness of what they are. So moving on to the next stage, sadness. So generally, underneath that anger, that rage, that reactivity, which can be a bit of a defense protective mechanism, we can drop into the sadness. And that's where we start to hit, we might, start to feel that deep sadness. We might start to find that we're crying, needing to have a good cry. We might even, fall into a depression or that real flat mood, low mood, and just not ourselves and find ourselves withdrawing, or maybe even going into a state of hopelessness, and that that hopelessness around the change that is happening. So yeah, if you might have found that you've had that emotional release and you have already hit that sadness and have had to have a few good cries, please allow that. Please allow that emotional release. Same with the anger and the rage stage. Find ways that you can express that anger in healthy ways, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail soon. So we've got the shock or the denial, we've got the anger, we've got the sadness, and then we move into a place of acceptance or gratitude. And I've found myself feeling this more and more this week. This is where you start, it's almost like where we complete the cycle and we start to come into a state of feeling like we've received the lesson from the change, we've received the gift, we've seen how we've grown and evolved through this change, even though it wasn't something that we would have chosen for ourselves to experience. We can now see, we can sort of step back and see how this really helped us, how it was really beneficial, and how we've grown and evolved as a result of it. And this is where we really start to feel that sense of wholeness again and sense of completeness and completion. And we've grown. So one of my mentors used to use the acronym GROW, that grieving restores our wholeness. So moving through all stages of the grief cycle and allowing all stages of the grief cycle. And when we get to that final stage of gratitude and acceptance, we're actually fully letting that change in. We're fully accepting it and allowing it in and integrating it and seeing the gift in it. So how can you support yourself moving through these stages of change, moving through these stages of grieving? And this can be, you can use this in any situation in your life, not just what's happening, globally at the moment, through anything that you go through. This can be through a health condition. This can be through, changing job, moving. I know that I go through a major grief cycle every time I move house. For me, I like to be really grounded and rooted, and my home is my sanctuary. So when I move house and I'm uprooted and moving to a new home, feels like it takes me a long time to settle, and I go through that grieving process until I've, made my new home, I've grounded down, I've rooted down and settled down and feel like it's my new sanctuary. So I've noticed that within my own self over the years. Another thing that I wanted to talk about that I've been noticing in a lot of people, it's either that those feelings of anxiety, those feelings, big feelings of overwhelm, that it's just all coming in on you and it's just all overwhelming you. And even maybe to the stages of having a panic attack or waking up through the night or not being able to sleep. So another thing that we need to be really aware of at the moment is our energetic hygiene. So our energetic hygiene is just as important as our physical hygiene at the moment. So there's a lot of collective energy at the moment, and if you're sensitive, if you're an empath, you are going to be feeling a lot of stuff that is not necessarily yours. It's not necessarily your thoughts, it's not necessarily your feelings, it's not necessarily your energy. And that's when we can start to feel overwhelmed and we don't know why we're feeling something, or we're feeling really tired for no reason, and we can't process the emotion when it's not ours. So when you're starting to feel in those states of anxiety, overwhelm, or even in that panic, this is when we need to start practicing grounding techniques, ways to ground our energy. It's really important. Ways to clear our energy so that we can clear what's not ours, and ways to contain our energy as well. And I'm not going to go into too much depth with those. I might share some more stuff over the coming days around that. But at a basic level, some sort of a chakra clearing meditation or energy clearing meditation can be really helpful, perhaps even doing on a daily basis at the moment, or when you're starting to feel that anxiety rise up or starting to feel really overwhelmed, or even panicky. So chakra clearing meditation, energy clearing meditation, and I might share one on one of my Facebook lives over the coming days, or I'm sure there's plenty. If you just Google on YouTube or something, you'll find one. Or on some of the popular apps like Calm app, or I think the other one's Insight Timer. Yeah. And then once we sort of get clear in our energy and recognize what's ours and what's not ours, we will have our own feelings and emotions that are coming up and rising up. So that's where it's really important not to repress them, not to suppress them, not to deny them, but to actually allow them to come up and be felt and to move through. So emotion needs to be energy emotion. It needs to move through you. It needs to be released. It needs to be felt and loved, and then it can be let go of. So, there's lots of different ways that you can process your emotions, and it's different for everyone. So, if you're in that stage of sadness, it might be popping on a good tearjerker movie or something that'll help you to have a good cry. It might be, with the anger, it might be screaming into a pillow or punching a pillow, or even, like some sort of body movement, shaking, dancing, singing. Anything sort of creative can help to move and transform the energy. Drawing, painting, chanting, exercise, yoga, so many different ways that we can help to process this emotion. The important thing is that we process it, that we feel it, that we release it, and then we're not bottling it up, because that's when we can start to feel that overwhelm. That's when we can start to lash out at others around us. So we need to be, if you're in those states of overwhelm and feeling really emotional, then self-care is paramount. I mean, self-care is paramount at the moment anyway. So really upping your self-care, really taking good care of yourself. The other thing, I feel like I've got lots to talk about today. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, after we do have a big emotional release, like whether it's through anger, whether it's through crying, whatever that looks like for you, often we can feel really emptied or really wiped out and really tired. And that's because processing that emotion, it can drain our etheric body, which is our energetic body, the first layer out from our physical body. So processing that emotion takes energy, and through processing it, we release it and we empty it out, and that's when we need to take some time out to fill ourselves up with, or to resource ourselves again. So that might look like the basics: resting, sleeping. Sometimes you need to have a really good sleep after a big cry. Lots of water, lots of fluids, good healthy food, making sure you're disconnecting from social media, from different news sources, and having that rest from technology as well. We're all on technology a lot more at the moment. And just generally being really gentle and caring with yourself. So being gentle and resting lots, and not, I guess, not feeling like you need to be doing all these things. It's okay to be gentle and to rest. What else did I want to talk about today? Yeah, there's a couple of, I was thinking there's some nice yoga poses that I want to share with you. So I might do a video on Monday, or that might be my Facebook Live on Monday, just sharing a few grounding yoga poses that are really good if you are feeling anxious or overwhelmed, or really emotional. So I'll share a few yoga poses on Monday, but a really good one is child's pose. So if you're not sure what that is, Google it. You'll find it easily, but that can be a really good one for grounding, for nurturing, and just helping us to settle the nervous system. Just check if there's any comments. Oh, hey Jill. Oh, I'm loving this with all the emotional roller coaster of events or emotions we've all had in the past 2 to 3 weeks. Absolutely, Jill. We're all riding the roller coaster at the moment. We're, in that sense, we're all in the same boat. And just, I guess, bringing some awareness around this grief cycle just helps you to be able to ride the roller coaster a little bit better. And at first it feels like the big dips. And then as you learn a little bit more about this and learn how to move through this change, they become a little bit smaller. It doesn't affect you as much. It doesn't rock the boat as much. It's a lot more like this. That's what I was talking with one of my coaching clients about yesterday. So we're all getting a huge lesson in this at the moment. So yeah, and I guess the other thing that I just wanted to reflect on, or ask you to reflect on at the moment, with everything that's going on with this, mass awakening that we're going through, and stripping back and being in this void space, is, with all of that gone, what are you left with? How is your connection to yourself? Do you have a strong connection to yourself, or have you realized it's actually quite lacking, and it's actually time? This is a beautiful opportunity to reconnect back to yourself. Ask yourself, what do I need at this time? How can I take care of myself? How can I nurture myself? And ask on that deeper level, asking, closing your eyes, hand on your heart, going within, asking your soul, what do you need? Or asking your inner child, what do you need right now? We really need to be taking care of ourselves first before we go into caring for everyone else, and there are a lot of people out there that need support and that need your help, but you need to be taking care of yourself first, okay? And filling up your cup first. And if you're having an off day where you're feeling really emotional and you need to pull in, then do that. And then in this void space, like, the beauty of the void space is that there's nothing that we can actually do. We realize that everything's or nothing's in our control. And really the only thing that we can do in this void space is surrender, and then surrender some more. We let go of all the resistance. We let go of the fear because we realize we can't control things. And we start to move into a place of trust and a place of faith. We start to hand it over because we realize, oh, I'm actually not in control here. And we hand it over. We surrender. And then we start to move into a beautiful place of trust and faith. So once again, I'll be jumping on here every morning at 10 a.m. Queensland time to offer support to you all. Not on Sundays. Sundays is my sacred day, so I won't be on here tomorrow. But every other day I will be. So I hope you're all doing okay. If you do feel like you need extra or personalized support, I'm also here for you. Like one of my clients mentioned yesterday that she was so grateful for her weekly sessions with me during these uncertain times. It's just been such a support and a landing point for her. So let me know if you'd like any information around that. I offer 12-week coaching programs or mentoring programs where we catch up weekly. It's a space where you can lay it all down, you can vent, you can unpack your experiences, you can receive emotional support, healing, different tools, guidance, resources, meditations, liquid crystals, whatever it is you need. It's an opportunity for you to receive and to be supported and to be able to navigate through these times. Take care of your energy, reduce that anxiety, that overwhelm, and restore your energy. So if you do want any further information about that, just send me a private message and we can have a chat about that. But otherwise, take care of yourselves. I hope this has been helpful for you all. Please, if you've got any questions about anything, just either comment below or you can send me a private message. Like I said, I'm absolutely here for you. I hope you're doing okay, and I will see you all on Monday. Many blessings.